會議嘅時間呢就已經到啦，而
It's 2:30, and we've got a quorum already. So may I welcome members to the meeting of the development panel. Item 1 on the agenda, election of deputy chairman. We were not able to complete the election last time. The ballot papers were issued and they were sealed. Now we had two nominations, Mr. Lawang Fat and Mr. Gary Fan. As I have said just now, the ballot papers were issued and distributed to members and were collected from members. But then, as we didn't have enough time last time, we could not count the votes at the last meeting. So after the last meeting, the ballot papers were put in an envelope, and in front of myself, the clerk, Mr. Leung Chi Cheung and Mr. KK Fong, the two members nominating the two candidates, the envelope was sealed. Now Mr. KK Fong, I believe, is on his way, so let's wait till he has arrived before we do the counting. But should we wait for him? But I believe he's on his way. Then subject to members' agreement, we can appoint another member to observe the counting process. Now, Mr. Gary Fan, what do you think? Because Mr. KK Fong has told me that he will come to this meeting. So should we wait for him? And Mr. Gary Fan, Ms. Emily Lau, what's the matter, Chairman? Last time we collected the ballot papers for the election of the deputy chairman. Oh, Mr. KK Fong has just arrived. So, Mr. Fong and Mr. Cheung, Mr. Leung rather, can you please come out to observe the counting of the ballot papers? Last time, the ballot papers were collected and put in an envelope, and the envelope was sealed. So, let's now open the sealed envelope. So the two members will observe the counting of the ballot papers. So all the ballot papers will be destroyed after the meeting under the observation of Secretariat staff. Number 1. 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 Number 2. Number 1. Number 1. Number 1. Number 1. Yes. Number 2. Speak more loudly, please. Number 2. Number 2. Number 2. Number 2. Number 1. Number 1. So let's count the ballot papers. 14 votes for number 1.
6票。
6 votes for number 2. So I declare that candidate number 1, Mr. Lau Wong Fat, is elected Deputy Chairman of the Development Panel. Congratulations, Mr. Lau. So, Mr. Lau, please come over here.
好啦，跟住我哋就係
Item 2 on the agenda, confirmation of the minutes of the meeting held on the 9th of October. The Secretariat hasn't received any proposals for amendments, so if there is no objection from members, then we can confirm the minutes. All right, members? Thank you. Item 3 on the agenda. Information papers issued since the meeting held on the 16th of July. I believe members have received many information papers. Members can refer to the agenda for the list of information papers issued. Members, any comments? No? Then let's move on. Mr. Wu Chi-wai, thank you. I would like to refer to the list of outstanding items for discussion. Item 11, valuation principles and practices adopted by the administration in assessing the value of resumed properties. Now, we've come across a case where the criteria adopted for an entire building and the criteria adopted for individual flats are different. We understand that we'll be dealing with more property resumption cases in the future. And so I think we should do some research concerning the history and the development of such valuation principles and practices. So can I invite the Library and Research Services Division to carry out a research for us concerning the principles and practices adopted in Hong Kong and principles and practices for assessing the value of resumed properties in other parts of the world. Yes, I think we will in the future have a focused discussion on this matter. Mr. Wu Chi-wai has suggested that we should ask our Library and Research Services Division to carry out some research. Members, what do you think? Mr. Kwok Him, yes, I think this idea is acceptable, but I think it will be too really cumbersome to have to research into overseas practices and principles. Yes, I do understand that the criteria for an entire building and the criteria for individual flats are different. Yes, I think it's a good idea to obtain some more background information to facilitate our discussion, but I don't think we should simply ask the division to research into practices worldwide. Maybe Mr. Wu Chi-wai, you may have a certain country or certain place in mind, and you can give the suggestion to the division. Yes, Chairman, Mr. Chen Kam Lam. Concerning resumption of property and criteria for an entire building versus criteria for individual flats. Now, in fact, these are very complicated issues. And in fact, there are existing policies governing resumption of land and resumption of property. It is not true to say that there are no existing policies. And so, concerning asking the Secretariat to carry out a study on whether such practices and principles are reasonable and fair. Now, I don't think we should ask the Secretariat to state its position. The Secretariat can only tell us what existing policies and practices there are. And, there can be different formats, open auctions, compulsory acquisition or resumption, and so on and so forth. And I don't think it's fair to ask the Secretariat to say whether these principles and practices are fair or not. And so if we want a background study, if we want some background research, we have to give the Secretariat very clear guidelines and instructions. And Hong Kong is a small place. Land and property are very valuable, and so it may not be relevant or appropriate to compare Hong Kong with other places in the world. So if you want the Library and Research Services Division to carry out a study or a research, you have to give more specific guidelines. Do you expect the Secretariat to carry out research into the practices in the UK, in the US, and many other countries in the world? Mr. Wu Chi-wai, Chairman, at the Complaints Division, we received a case. I didn't make myself too clear, perhaps. And the bone of contention is this. Now, redevelopment potential will be taken into account if an entire building is involved. But then if for individual flats, this factor doesn't come in. And I understand that this is an extremely controversial point in many resumption cases. And so I hope that our Library and Research Services Division can carry out a detailed study on this aspect of our land resumption policies or property resumption policies. Yes, I do understand the complainant's concern. In deciding on the compensation, of course there are policies, principles and practices, and other factors are also taken into account, for example past cases, and we have the Lands Tribunal being the final adjudicator. So concerning resumption of land, resumption of property ownership, thus causing losses to landlords and operators, I think there should be a discussion between us and the administration on this issue. The administration will of course provide us with papers, and if we feel that we need more reference materials, we can take follow-up action. And because the ordinance and also the profession are involved.
Mr. Albert Chan, we can take reference from Canada and Australia. Now, in cases of disputes in resuming the property ownership by the government, we should go for mediation and arbitration first before taking the case to the Lands Tribunal. But the government doesn't want to do it. The government wants to brand itself as a mediation center and will try to resolve disputes through mediation and arbitration. But then in land resumption, the government is using land laws to take advantage of the landowners, and the government doesn't want to have mediation. So perhaps the research division of the LegCo can make a study on overseas jurisdictions, including Canada, and there are local governments within Canada where there are arbitration and mediation laws before cases are taken to the court. So perhaps the research division can conduct a study first for our reference. I referred to the scope of the study. One way of doing it is to look at the British laws, because the British people have a long history in terms of making compensation to landowners. Now, the British laws are modeled after the Canadian law. Well, we should have a scope of study first, as what Mr. Yip Kok Him said, before we can take forward the study. And also, we hope that the government can take heed of our suggestions made just now. So, can the Secretariat look further into this? As what we said, perhaps you can take a look at Australia and Canada, the British Commonwealth countries, which have been using the British laws in compensations, statutory compensations. So please do that. All right, let's move on to the schedule of meetings in 2014-15 session. So the meeting will be held at 2:30 p.m. On the Tuesday, the fourth Tuesday of every month. So we've got a table of the proposed meeting dates for the next year. There are two specific days that are questionable. Now, for the meeting on 23rd of December, we would like to advance it to the 29th of December, Friday, because 23rd is too close to the Christmas holiday. And also the 28th of July 2015, by the same token, because it's so near to the close of the electrical session, we want to advance that to 22nd of July, a Wednesday. So members, if you have no objection, then we will agree on this timetable tabled. Next, item 5, items for discussion at the next meeting. The government has proposed 4 items to be discussed, including, first, Capital Works Reserve Fund block allocations for 2015-2016. Second, revitalization of Bridges Street Market, former Fanling Magistry, and How Par Mansion under the Revitalization Historical Buildings through Partnership Scheme. Third, proposed establishment of a Harbourfront Authority, Phase 2 PE exercise. And the fourth item is revision of fees under buildings, lifts, and tower working platform safety fees regulation under the purview of the EMSD, revision of fees and economic costs for excavation on streets maintained by Highways Department under land miscellaneous provisions regulations, and revision of fees for excavation in unleased land other than streets maintained by the Highways Department under Cap 28A. So these are the items proposed for discussion in the next meeting. Because we are having 4 items, so we need more time to discuss them. So I suggest that the regular meeting be extended for by 2 hours, i.e. to end at 6:30 p.m. Members, any views? If not, then let's move on to item 6, and that is PWP item number 065TR, detailed feasibility study for environmentally friendly linkage system for Kowloon East. Please invite the administration team in, please. Actually, for this agenda item, that was already covered in the 16th of July And the paper is paper number bracket 180 1774 1314 bracket 01. But then for this meeting, the government has submitted a supplementary paper, and that is paper number CB 189 1415 bracket 03. And actually, 6 members have already asked questions last time. Mr. Michael Tian, Gary Fan, Frederick Feng, Chen Chijun, Wu Chiwai, and Fernando Zheng. And in the last meeting, members who have raised hands to speak are the following. There are 5 of them. They are Mr. Chong Kam Lam, Dr. Lo Wai Kwok, Alan Leung, Paul Che, and Leung Kwok Hong. Before we raise questions, perhaps I will first ask the government team to take us through the supplementary paper. Please be succinct. So depending on the time and the number of members who wish to raise questions, if time allows, I will give you a second round of questioning time. Who to take us through the supplementary paper? Chairman, members, on the 25th of May, the development panel meeting, we briefed the members on the outcome of the 2 PE exercises on the EFLS, and we proposed that a detailed feasibility study for the project. On members' questions raised in the May meeting, and we have provided supplementary information in the paper submitted on the 26th of July 2014. We have also revised the scope of the feasibility study. And because of time constraint, we haven't been able to finish the discussion of this project. So today, we're here to continue consulting members on your views, and we hope to solicit your support our funding application for this detailed feasibility study. Thank you. Before I ask members to raise questions, I would like to remind members that in accordance with ROP 83A, if a member has a direct or indirect pecuniary interest on a subject, he should disclose the nature of that interest before he speaks. Now, I'll open the floor to questions by members. The first one is Mr. Chong Kam Lam. Thank you, Chairman. In this study, 4 minutes, please. I will be very strict on the timing. The cargo ship owners and merchants are asked that the KTTL be built at a height 40 meters above sea level because they're worried about the use of the typhoon shelter. Well, so in the interim period, has the government talked to the cargo ship merchants for many bridges in Hong Kong, including Jingyi Bridge? They are 17 meters high only. For cargo ships and barges using the western waters, they are not affected. But then would the government be talking to them to allay their worries? And if for the typhoon shelter is inadequate to cope with the needs of the cargo ships, will the government consider building or allocating more typhoon shelter space in the western part of Hong Kong to meet with their demands? Who to take that question? Thank you, Chairman. About the heights of the KTTL in the 2 PE exercises, we have been communicating with the trades and the stakeholders. We fully understand the marine workers' concern on the height because the high-mast vessels will not be able to enter the typhoon shelter because of the height of the KTTL. They have a strong objection to our proposal. So in our detailed feasibility study, we would also cover the impact of the KTTL on the typhoon shelter, especially on high-mast vessels. We try to come up with a solution which can meet their needs and also that will not contravene the Protection of Harbour Ordinance. So we will be studying that. And when we are doing that, we would be having close liaison with the trades. Mr. Chan referred to whether we could build new typhoon shelters in Western Hong Kong. Well, that would also be covered under the detailed feasibility study. I hope that government officials can further talk to the cargo ship sector. Well, it's impossible to build a bridge 40 meters high. It would be difficult to build a bridge of that height, and it would also drive up the costs of the construction. So please talk to them again. In fact, over the years, for high-mast barges, they would not be able to enter the typhoon shelter because the breakwaters are quite the width between the two breakwaters will be quite narrow. So this is the reality, and I hope that you can allocate some other waters for them to operate so that we can still proceed with our present plans. So perhaps the administration, please consider that. Next one is Dr. Low Wai Kwok, Chairman. Kai Tak is a crucial part of Kowloon for future development. This is a narrow strip of land in the form of peninsula, and it is important that it should be connected to the other parts of Kowloon. At various occasions in the past, including the different meetings within the LegCo, the question has been discussed. For myself, I strongly support the monorail system. I won't repeat my reasons here. If we try to compare the different models, underground, viaduct, and so on, I think if we go by the viaduct option, it will be better because we can better utilize the land service. Now, in the past couple of years, I visited many road surface or at-grade transport modes. And for most of these cities, the density of development is relatively low. So at-grade transport surface is more appropriate. But then for Kai Tak and Kowloon, East Kowloon, I think viaduct or elevated monorail is better. There have been successful and unsuccessful examples of monorails in overseas jurisdictions. An outstanding example is Tokyo. It's connecting the Narita Airport to the town center, and I think the passenger flow is good, the return is good, and I've used the railway myself before. And when one travels on the rail line, well, one can really appreciate the landscape on both sides of the rail line. So I support the monorail option, which can improve the transport network, and also will be a new landmark in the area, which will be frequented by tourists and locals alike. Now, the government has proposed 7 new railway projects in its RDS 2014, and a new project proposed is the East Kowloon line, which goes uphill. So if with that proposal in mind, we would be thinking about new developments or new proposals for the monorail system.
Yes, Ms. Ying, thank you. In the DFS, we will look at the latest directions concerning infrastructure and other developments that will be updating. And we will look at the best interchange arrangements between the EFLS and MTR stations. So we will be working on the basis of the preliminary studies. Yes, Chairman. I think in the DFS, sufficient attention has to be given to views expressed by district councillors and local residents. They hope that there can be enhanced coverage provided by the EFLS. I will not repeat their views and comments here. I think you should attach importance to their views and comments. And I hope that the EFLS can look into all the relevant development needs. Mr. Alan Leung, thank you, Chairman. I want to know which government department will be steering this DFS. And after completion of the study, will the traffic and transport experts from the Transport and Housing Bureau come to this council to give some explanations to LegCo members? Now concerning this yellow FLS, various suggestions have been put forward. Travelators, modern tramways, and electric buses. And it is said that elevated walkways can also connect the different modes of transport. So I want to know the weightings to be given to these different options or possibilities. Is it that all these options or alternative green transport modes will be looked at? And for monorails, we've seen successful examples as well as not so successful ones. Now, the Sydney monorail is an unsuccessful example. And Mr. Low Wai Kwok has said that the Haneda Airport monorail is a successful example. And so I want to know whether the causes of success will be applied to the EFLS for Kowloon East. And then it is said that the administration is going to proceed and consult at the same time. What exactly do you mean by this approach? Which stakeholders are you going to consult? And then how are you going to collect and collate and summarize the opinion received? Thank you. Yes, Chairman, thank you. Now, in fact, the Development Bureau and the Transport and Housing Bureau do liaise very closely on major projects of this type. The EFLS is going to be very important for the Central Business District in Kowloon East. This is a major infrastructure project, and so the CEDD will be involved in the study and in the planning, and the Bureau providing the leadership will be the Development Bureau. As to how we are going to study the various options. Now, in stage 1 of the DFS, we will be studying and comparing different green transport modes, including travelators, electric buses, and modern tramways. We want to provide an integrated multimodal transport network. We don't have any preconceived ideas. All the options will be studied on an equal weighting basis. So you can tell us more about how you can proceed and consult at the same time later. Mr. Paul Chair. Thank you, Chairman. It seems that the construction of the EFLS cannot commence till 2015, and this system won't be completed till 2026. The Kai Tak Cruise Terminal is now in operation. So what's going to happen in the next decade or so before the completion of the EFLS? Now, of course, we need an integrated multimodal linkage system, but then at the moment the cruise terminal is very inaccessible. Although the distance may only be about 200 meters, people have to make detours in order to go to the cruise terminal, and if you walk, if you cycle, that's going to take quite some time. So how are you going to deal with the connectivity problem in the interim pending the completion of the EFLS? And then secondly, I welcome your willingness to explore other green public transport modes like travelators and electric buses and modern tramways. I think it's good that you've accepted our advice, but we want to know the weightings given to these different green transport modes. And then now, this is going to be an integrated system. We don't want it to become a white elephant. We shouldn't be constructing the EFLS for the sake of constructing it. And we hope that the system can benefit the residents of Kwun Tong and the nearby districts. So how can you make sure that this is going to happen? Thank you. Ms. Ying. Thank you. I thank the member for the questions. I understand that LegCo members and the residents want to see enhanced connectivity within Kowloon East. And so in the DFS, we're going to study connectivity needs in different phases of development of Kowloon East. With regard to the accessibility of the cruise terminal, it's true that the situation is not satisfactory at the moment. So we are looking at short-term measures to try to alleviate the problem. As to how we're going to study the various green public transport modes, now we've taken on board members' views, and we've decided that in the DFS we'll be looking at various green public transport modes, including modern tramways, monorails, electric buses, and travelators. We will not have any preconceived positions and will not assume or presume that a monorail must be built. We will look at the geographical situation in Kowloon East in great detail, and then we'll look at which green public transport mode suits the Kowloon East best. We'll also take into account factors like construction costs, operating costs. So we are going to assess different green public transport modes on an equal weighting basis. And after we've given our assessments, the public can judge which green public transport mode can best suit the situation in Kowloon East. Let me continue for I understand that residents as well as district councillors in Wong Tai Sin and in Kowloon City want to see the EFLS extended so that the coverage can be increased. And we will in the DFS also look at possible extensions to the EFLS. Mr. Leung Kwok Hong is not in the conference room. Mr. Albert Chan, thank you. Chairman, of course, we should not object to new developments. But I believe you do have a set of principles behind proposing a certain infrastructural project. 30 years ago, Scott said that there should be the LRT in Yuen Long and Tuen Mun, and you know the grievances of the residents there. Now for the EFLS, why have you chosen Kowloon East and Kowloon East alone and not other regions? Yes, we understand that there will be redevelopment in Kowloon East, but then it doesn't mean that we can't have EFLSs in other regions. I think we want to see development and progress in all regions in the territory. It seems that you are favoring Kowloon East. Is it because the councillors representing Kowloon East have fought very strongly for the EFLS, or is it that someone has pocketed $50 million and as a result has come up with this idea? Now look at Cheung Kwan O, look at Tin Shui Wai, and it is in fact, in Tuen Mun, the population is 600,000, and yet there are only 2 MTR stations, and in Tin Shui Wai, the population is 300,000, and there is only 1 MTR station. Why is it that all the benefits will go to Kowloon East? Is it that the consortia have very strong presence and interest there, and that the development of the EFLS will promote the interests of these consortia? Yes, Chairman, let me say something about the background to this project. For Kai Tak, there were 3 phases of public engagement. Between 2004 and 2006, there were a lot of discussions in society concerning the development of Kai Tak. And one of the major proposals was the EFLS. In fact, in 2007, the Kai Tak outline development plan was approved, and it was stated very clearly that the EFLS, or the idea of an EFLS, will be subject to further studies. And so, we need to take follow-up action because of the preliminary alignment of the EFLS in the Kai Tak or on the Kai Tak OZP. So the CEDD in 2009 started a preliminary study on the preliminary alignment of the EFLS. Yes, I know the history to this idea. We have over 1 million people living in Tuen Mun and Yuen Long. Mr. Lau Wong Fat, I believe you know their difficulties and their problems. Now, in fact, the residents have been complaining about the LRT taking up too much of the road space, and now you are trying to benefit the Kowloon East, but then residents in Northeast NT have been suffering for years. Why is it that you are favoring Kowloon East? Is it that someone has got $50 million and as a result has proposed the EFLS for Kowloon East? Why is it that you've turned a blind eye to the sufferings of residents living in Northwest NT?
Mr. Yu Si-wing, today we're discussing about how to resolve the transport network in Kowloon East. Especially, we must solve the problem between the transport between Kowloon East and Kowloon West. And we must focus on the connectivity of Kowloon East in terms of transport development. We have to study the connectivity system of Kowloon East, and this time we are just focusing on the elevated monorail. But I don't think this is the only system making connections in Kai Tak. We should have ferries and water taxis in the future. Members have recently raised whether we can ride on a water taxi from Kai Tak to Lei Yue Mun. Some people also suggested that from Kowloon, from Kwun Tong to the terminal cruise. I mean, the road is quite convoluted. So these are the problems should be addressed. Now, for this EFLS, it will be commissioned, say, in only 10 years or so. But the government said that it would respond to our concerns, but it doesn't come with any specific proposals. So apart from conducting a DFS on the EFLS, what about the ferries and the water taxis? Would you also study about them? Would you be coming up with some short-term proposals? Can you work on the ferries first? The relevant government departments can sit together and hold a meeting, and perhaps operate ferry services between the cruise terminal and Kwun Tong to take passengers from Kwun Tong to the Kai Tak terminal cruise terminal. So please give us a specific answer. Thank you, Mr. Yu, for your question. This is an comprehensive transport network, and we will not rule out water transport. We would be looking into whether we can do anything as far as water transport is concerned. Now, but then we have to address issues related to the protection of harbour ordinance. Maybe you suggested a temporary pier, but then we would be looking at the issue through our DFS. Some members also asked if you have a sort of floating pier, then that would not be covered or governed by the protection of harbour ordinance. This is simple. Would you consider it? I've heard that companies are willing to build these sort of floating docks or piers for operating the ferries. Yes, we will look at those. Well, we will have to really look at how floating it is, so to speak. If it is stations sort of stationary in a certain place, and that would also go against the protection of harbour ordinance. We would also have to see how the navigation channel will be like, how the tidal waves are going to be like. So we will have to look at all these aspects. Members, who else would like to speak? 3 have said that they would like to ask questions in the second round. Mr. Wu Chi-wai, Mr. Raymond Chan, and Mr. Albert Chan. Any other members wishing to raise a question? So we do have time for you. And others, if not, the second round, 3 minutes each, including questions and answers. Mr. Wu Chi-wai. The reply this time covers the scope of the study, and then the different transport modes will be given equal weighting. But may I refer you to paragraph 17 of the paper? But then it seems that not equal weighting is given to the different transport modes. Now it says that there will be points A to E, G. They are predicated on the premise that the monorail system will be built. But then for G, it says that there will be topical study on alternative at grade green transport modes. So if this is the approach they are adopting, how can you say that this is a study with equal weighting given to the different transport modes? Now, this is point number 1. In this DFS, where will the cost effectiveness come in place? From points A to H, are they also applicable to at-grade transport modes? Ms. Ying. Thank you, Mr. Wu. Well, the paper was submitted on the 16th of July, and in that meeting we heard members' views that we should not have any preconceived preference for one transport mode over another. So in response to members, we have made adjustment to the scope of the feasibility study. So in the first phase, we would be comparing the different transport modes on an equal weighting basis. And after the results are known, we will consult the stakeholders. And then if a consensus can be forged, then we will pin down on one particular green transport mode. Now, as for the point about cost effectiveness, cost effectiveness will be an important factor in comparing the different transport modes. So that will be covered in phase 1 of the DFS, and statistics will be provided. Can I seek clarification? Is it that the DFS will be divided into 2 phases? In phase 1, well, I can imagine that that will cover A to H. And all these points will be covered under the study on each transport mode, right? Can I supplement a bit? Because this is a first phase, for some aspects, we will only take that up in this second phase. Say for site investigation, that will be taken up in the second phase. In phase 1, we would not include items which are costly. So for the first phase, is a choice of the transport mode. Is that right? Yes. Next one, Mr. Raymond Chan. I would like to ask questions about the latest paper. The second question we raised is that the financial resources to be allocated on each of the potential transport modes. Now, why we asked such a detailed questions, because we are worried that the government has a preconceived inclination towards the elevated monorail, and then modern tramways and other transport modes will not be given preference. But in their answer, they didn't give us any specific answer. It says that 30% of the project estimate, $27 million will be used for the study. So of this $27 million, how much will be used for studying the potential transport modes? I think we focused on the elevated monorail and also the modern tramways. But then Mr. Leung Kwok-hong also raised other transport like electric buses and travelators and so on. And the government was good in covering them in the latest paper as well. But my question is that will all these transport modes be given an equal amount of money as far as their study is concerned? Let me supplement, Chairman. The different systems have different degree of complication, or complexity rather. If it is a monorail, it is a rail system, and it involves a lot of E&M works, which are more complicated compared to other transport modes. So we have to gather more information for that, for the study of that system. Now, say for modern tramway, it will have impact on at-grade traffic and also traffic signals. So we have to conduct a study on the impact of tramway on road space and signaling system and so on, traffic light system. So it is very difficult for us to say, come up with figures on, say, giving $1 million to monorail or $1 million to modern tramway. So it's a bit difficult to do that. Now, why we raised this question? Because I am worried that the government is inclined towards the elevated monorail. So that's why we asked that the other transport be included in point B. I hope that ultimately the government will not give us say 1 page or 2 for the other public transport modes when you will be giving a lot of information on the monorail system. So I hope that true equal weighting be given to the different modes of transport. Mr. Leung Kwok Hong, have you considered other public transport modes? Yes, I am going to raise that again. You want the government to confirm the other transport modes will be included as well? I asked last time, and this question last time, and then they said that they will come back, and then an expert will come here to brief us. My question is simple. I know nothing about monorail system. But then I would like to ask whether there are other possibilities. And how come that when monorail systems in other parts of the world fail and we will be able to succeed? Administration, who to take that question, please? You know what the member is driving at, right? The different comparison between among the different transport modes and the effectiveness of monorail is exactly because we've incorporated your views that we have revised the scope of the study, and for each of the transport mode we will be studying into them and give them equal weighting in our study so that members can make a good choice in the future. Now, as to the experience of monorail in overseas countries and the mainland, there are examples of there are successful and unsuccessful examples. For example, the monorail system in Haneda Airport in Tokyo, it is a success, and Chongqing is also a success. But there are also cases of failure as well. So in our DFS, we will be having a chapter on the overseas experiences of monorails, why they have adopted the system, what are the factors for success, what are the factors behind their failures, so that we can better prepare our proposal. Haneda Airport in Tokyo, right? Well, we are not talking about an airport in Hong Kong. Well, that place used to be an airport, that's true. Now, Heathrow has also the railway lines. For the airport in Hong Kong, there's a problem. While the number of tourists is rising, the number of passengers on the airport rail link is decreasing. That's very problematic. And the situation in Hong Kong is very different from the Haneda Airport in Tokyo. Have you conducted any studies on the situation of the airport? In our initial feasibility study, we have written to many cities which have monorail systems to get information from them. But unfortunately, they haven't given us much information. Well, should I help you out with obtaining the information? In 2013, we actually visited Chongqing. Well, Bo Xi Lai from Chongqing stepped down. Well, the monorail is not connecting with the airport.
Jiang Chongqiu.
There is a Sichuan billionaire operating a lot of the public transport facilities in Hong Kong. Now they obtain funding from the Construction Bank or from the People's Bank of China. Where can we get money to build the railway? Now I think the talking about Chongqing is not relevant because Chongqing has replaced Shanghai as the largest city in terms of cities with a population of over 30 million. Mr. Albert Chan. Now, Chairman, you are proposing to carry out a DFS, but then I think you have to get the concepts right before you carry out a DFS. You know, all the concepts have to be clarified. And have to be proved feasible. Why only Kowloon East? Why only Kai Tak and nowhere else? You have to resolve all these conceptual issues before you go ahead. Now, I'm sure you'll face a lot of opposition if you insist to go ahead at this stage without resolving the conceptual issues. Why only Kowloon East? Why not Western New Territories? Why not the entire territory? I think if you can resolve these conceptual issues, you'll face less opposition. Chairman, between 2012 and 2014, we carried out 2 phases of public engagement. The public knew that in order to energize Kowloon East and to build another CBD in Hong Kong, there was an urgent need for an EFLS. I think he is repeating himself, Chairman. I am a member representing NT West. Why is it that the government favors Kowloon East? Is it that you attach greater importance to the suggestions made by Kowloon East councillors? NT West residents have been suffering for decades. Mr. Lawang Fat, you should say something on behalf of the residents of NT West. You are energizing Kowloon East. You are revitalizing other districts in the urban area. So are you regarding those living in NT West as second-class citizens? Is it that they are paying less tax to the government? Now, is it that Mrs. Carrie Lam favors Kowloon East? Is it that Ms. Chen Yun Han, or is it that Mrs. Carrie Chan attaches greater importance to views made by Ms. Chen Yun Han? I'm not against the idea of having this system in Kowloon East, but I just want to say that you should also study the possibility of providing EFLS in other regions, especially NT West. So I think your study should also cover NT West. Are you willing to consider studying the possibility of an EFLS for Kowloon for NT West? Mr. Lawang Fat, you should say something on behalf of the residents of NT West. You used to be the chairman of the development panel, and you know that they have been suffering for a long time. Ms. Chen Yun Han. Now, in fact, this matter has been the subject of consultation in the district council in the past decade or so. Now, in fact, the residents of Kowloon East have been looking forward to having an EFLS. But of course, I understand that apart from the monorail, other options like modern tramways and can be considered. Now, you know, I don't just represent Kowloon East, I represent the entire territory. I'm concerned about the interests of the entire territory. Now, at that time, the 2 or 3 district councils concerned said that they wanted an EFLS for Kowloon East. We hope that Phase 3 public engagement can start as soon as possible. And we have suggested a station in To Kwa Wan. We've suggested enhanced linkages to the MTR stations. Now, yesterday I was not able to attend the meeting of the Economic Development Panel, but I want to say that we really have to expedite the development of the Kai Tak area. Now, in fact, there have been many rounds of consultation, and I want to say that I support the launching of Phase 3 public engagement for the EFLS. The two district councils have strongly urged the administration to expedite the project. All in all, Chairman, I haven't spoken, but I have been here. I have been here at this meeting. I hope that we can vote on the paper, and then we can move on to the next item, which is also a matter that I'm concerned about, and that is the development of Tung Chung. I want to say that it's not true to say that the government favors or particularly favors Kowloon East. We have been waiting for this EFLS for a very long time. Any response concerning the where the stations are going to be and the detailed alignment? We will first of all carry out the DFS, and of course there will also be public engagement exercises. Two more members would like to ask questions in the second round. Leung Kwok Hong and Alan Leung, and Albert Chan has said that he wants to ask questions in the third round. Anyone else? Chan Chi Chun, third round. All right, 4 members in total. So after the 4 members have asked their questions and have got the replies, we will move on to the next item. Mr. Alan Leung, Chairman, 3 minutes. Kowloon East is such a wonderful place, and I think it's a region that's worth attaching importance to, but of course it doesn't mean that the government should neglect other regions in the territory. Now there's going to be this DFS, Chairman. The administration has mentioned a number of cities in Japan and also Chongqing, and then Mr. Low Wai Kwok has referred to the success of the Haneda Airport monorail, and then there is this unsuccessful example, the Sydney monorail. So I want to know what you mean by proceeding while at the same time consulting. Yes, Chair, concerning the successful and unsuccessful monorail examples in other parts of the world, will in a DFS require the consultant to carry out detailed case analysis. For example, why they've chosen the monorail option, the operational difficulties that they faced. Such information will be useful reference to us and will facilitate our detailed analysis as to how we can proceed and at the same time consult. There are many components in this DFS, and one of them is the integrated multimodal linkage system. And we're going to come up with short-term, medium-term, and long-term options. After we've drawn up some short-term options, we will, as soon as possible, consult the local residents. So we'll consult the districts concerned on more local proposals. But then on wider issues, there will be more extensive consultation. And when we've come up with some medium-term options, we will again carry out public consultation. And then we will try to reach a consensus on the public transport mode to be chosen. But then concerning the details of this chosen public transport mode, they will be studied in greater detail at a later stage, and there will be further consultation with stakeholders. Mr. Leung Kwa-Hong, 3 minutes. Yes, Chairman. Concerning the EFLS, now, it was proposed because of the cruise terminal. You want to bring people to the cruise terminal. You know, the government spent over $10 billion constructing the cruise terminal. What for? Elderly citizens living in Kowloon East have asked the Housing Department to build escalators leading up to their public housing blocks along the hillside, but to no avail. We have been talking about good access. And so I'm not asking the government not to spend money. Because of the escalator along Center Street, shop rentals have gone up very substantially. So please do not think that only building an EFLS can stimulate economic development. More local projects can also stimulate economic development. You know, in Thailand, there was an EFLS operated by Mr. Gordon Wu. I didn't want to take it, and in fact, it's an example of failure. I understand that you want this EFLS to take people to the URA development in Kwun Tong. You want to make that development more vibrant. But I think you should also spend money on other local projects. And when the government said that the LRT was excellent, and then the LRT, then the LRT was built, and we know that it's also an example of failure. This EFLS is going to be a glass white elephant. It's going to look nice, but it's not going to be useful. I think you should try to build more escalators to bring people, especially elderly citizens, uphill. I think in Kwun Tong, in Chi Wan Shan, we need these hillside escalators. It is not that I'm not willing to give some funding support to the government, but I think money should be used to build hillside escalators. Mr. Albert Chen. Mr. Lawang Fat understands that silence is gold. I think he is really a man of great political wisdom. The Chuen Ma Wan and the Chuen Mun District Councils have put forward a report proposing the construction of a railway linking Chuen Wan and Chuen Mun. Now, in fact, many years ago, the district councillors said that there should be a railway between Chuen Wan and Chuen Mun. In fact, a consultancy study was commissioned. The consultancy report was provided to the government, but the government has refused to build this railway. So we can see that the government is extremely biased and is showing favoritism towards Kowloon East. The incinerator is in Kowloon East. The landfill is in NT West. Also the landfill. So how come there isn't an incinerator proposed for Kai Tak?
Why don't we move the incinerator from South Lantau to Kai Tak? You've built 4 obnoxious facilities in the western part of NT. Can you give us one single item which is good, which can benefit the residents in West NT? If you can't resolve our problems here in West NT, I will use all my ways and means to block the passage of this proposal. And we don't know whether there is any conspiracy behind. Is there any favoritism bestowed upon certain consortia? So when the Secretary for Development said that the NENT will be developed, then it's discovered that he has been hoarding land there. So I hope, Mr. Lau Wong-Fat, you will say some words of justice. Mr. Raymond Chan. If the government is going to carry out a DFS in which all kinds of public transport modes will be given equal weighting, then nobody will object to you. But then we do know that the government has a preconceived idea, i.e. you want to build an elevated monorail. We can't trust you. And the same goes for the tramway company. So can the government tell the whole of Hong Kong that you will not have any preconceived ideas, and then you will conduct a study giving equal weighting to all public transport modes? And then you can also say this to the tramway company and ask it to submit a proposal on modern tramways again. For this DFS, we haven't yet come to the stage where we will talk with potential operators who may be interested in running the system. So as I said, we will give equal weighting to all public transport modes. Our consultant will obtain information from existing operators, including construction cost, difficulties faced during the repair maintenance, and the relevant costs involved. That will be for our reference and study. The last sentence of the letter says that you would be further conducting consultation on the proposed EFLS. Is that going to be done after you have come up with a proposal, or is that going to be undertaken now, right away? Now, after we have made an assessment of the different public transport, we will consult, i.e. before a decision is made. So we'll come to the end of this discussion of this item. So do members support that the proposal be forwarded to the PWSC for its consideration? Yes? All right. Thank you very much. Your comment has been recorded. I officially move the motion to object to the proposal. Chairman. Yes, we would jot it down. That your comment will be relayed to the PWSC. Well, I officially or formally move a motion. You have to claim a division. Those who support the proposal, please raise your hand. Please read out their names. Wu Chi-wai, Yip Kwok Him, Alice Mack, Leung Chi-chang, Chen Kam Lam, Regina Yip, Wu Chi-wai. 6 or 7? 7. And also Mr. Lau Wong-Fat. 7. Ms. Chen Yin-han, 8 altogether. All right. Read out the names again. Wu Chi-wai, Alice Mack, Regina Yip, Yip Kwok Him, Leung Chi-chang, Chen Kam Lam, Chen Yin-han, Lau Wong-Fat. A total of 8 members. Those who are against the proposal: Mr. Raymond Chan, Leung Kwok Hong, and Mr. Albert Chen. 3 in total. So we would support the government in submitting the proposal to the PWSC for funding application. Next, we move on to item 7, which is about the Tung Chung New Town Extension Study Stage 3 PE. Please invite the administration team in.
發言啊，都一陣間講。
咦？
係啊，謝你。幾多分鐘啊？呢個
4開始啦，不過要準時，或者投票。
就首先歡迎咧出席嘅。
First of all, I'd like to welcome the representatives from the administration. The name list has been tabled. I'm not going to introduce them one by one. First of all, I would like to call upon the government representative to give us a briefing on this item. Mr. Ma? Thank you, Chairman. The Tung Chung New Town Extension is a core project in expanding housing. In 2004, the ODP was mapped out, and in 2007 there was a revised ODP. According to this ODP, Tung Chung will be developed into a new town. The CEDD and the Planning Department jointly commissioned the study in January 2012, and with a view to extend the Tung Chung East and West and the feasibility of the development. The PGROW program is divided in 3 stages. The second stage was held from May 2013 to July 2013, in which initial land use options for Tung Chung East and Tung Chung West were presented. In view of the opinions collected and also the planning considerations, we have come up with a ODP for Tung Chung East. The theme is economic vibrancy. Plot ratio has been revised, and the residential areas have been revised to unleash potential in this area. For Tung Chung West, the proposed 14-hectare reclamation will not be done to keep the original fishing village landscape. There will be a total of 235 hectares, and a total of 48,000 units will be built, and taking a population of 140,000. The subsidized housing to private housing, 60% to 40%. Now, for the whole of Tung Chung New Town, that would also be the ratio used, 6:4, and 40,000 jobs will be provided, and there will be more recreational and education facilities. The third phase, PE, starts from 15th of August to the 31st of December, or October rather. So now I would like to invite CEDD representative Mr. Chong to take us through the proposed development. Please be succinct, Mr. Chong. Thank you, the Acting Secretary, for your introduction. The study started in 2012, and now we are in the third stage of PE, and in 2012-13, second stage and first stage PE exercise was conducted, and we consulted members last year. We've received over 3,000 submissions in our stage 2 PE. There are 5 areas. The views fall into 5 areas. Generally, the people believe that there should be a new development in the area, and there is a need to expand the Tongcheng town. In the course of development, that we should have an appropriate ratio of public-private housing, and there should also be government and community facilities which can support the development. In the new development area, more jobs will be more diversified job opportunities should be provided. And as for connectivity with the outside areas, they hope that there will be new MTR stations to cope with the increasing demand from the population. As far as land use is concerned, the people said that a sustainable design should be used, and that it would be able to integrate with the surroundings, and it should be able to make the best use of the surrounding rural areas. Ecology, environment, and cultural heritage. They said that we should preserve recognized villages in rural setting, and they object to the proposed 14 hectares reclamation in Tongcheng West. After collating the views from this PE stage 2 PE, we have come up with this initial land use options. So for Tongcheng West, people are objecting to the 14 hectares reclamation. So in the third PE exercise, we will cancel that part. And in Tongcheng East, the community is in support of a hybrid mode of a livable town and economic vibrancy. So they support reclamation, and we will preserve the 120 hectares reclamation plan. There will be a new population of 140,000 people, and most of it is in Tongcheng East, 170,000, Tongcheng West 23,000, and proposed number of flats 48,000, 62% subsidized housing, private housing 38%. So this is the draft RODP. In Tongcheng East, 120 hectares of land will be reclaimed. So we hope to build high-density development around the MTRC station. The patches in red are within the comprehensive development area. There will be commercial, residential, and retail development. Towards the sea, then there will be a stepped height profile. And the patches in red are subsidized housing. As we move along towards the seashore, the plot ratio will be decreased. We want to make the best use of the waterfront. So the waterfront is 4 kilometers long, and we propose that there is a waterfront promenade. We also will be providing for cycle tracks and pedestrian walkways to connect to the inner areas. We want to develop Tongcheng East economically, so along the North Lantau Highway, there will be commercial developments. These are the patches in pink. For this 120 hectares land, we also will be providing north, south, east, west visual corridors and air corridors to achieve the best ventilation and the best landscape views. There will also be a central green in the middle, and that will be the focus of this area. And on the waterfront, apart from the pedestrian walk and promenade, we will also be providing for a marina. We want to make use of the advantage of the seashore to add vibrancy to the waterfront. And next to the marina, there will be commercial developments and hotel development to add vibrancy to the waterfront. In the first and second PE exercises, residents said that they hope that there will be community facilities. So to the east of the waterfront, there will be a sports ground to meet with the needs of Tongcheng. And space will also be reserved for educational purposes. There will also be a land plot for building tertiary institution.
And for sites for subsidized housing, GFA will be reserved for the provision of community facilities. Tung Chung West Extension will serve the residents of Yat Chong Estate and other new developments, and so you can see that we've reserved an area for the railway extension in area 39. And there will also be commercial facilities at the Tung Chung West railway station. As you can see, Tung Chung West has a rural character with 8 recognized villages. For the Tung Chung River, we've learned in consultation exercises that the public are concerned about the conservation of Tung Chung River. We've in fact carried out a detailed ecological impact assessment for Tung Chung River, and so for the river and also the riparian areas, we've proposed conservation zones. And on both sides of the river, there are recognized villages. We've taken into account the small house demand in these villages, and we've also proposed V zones for small house development. We've also proposed low density short development along these areas, for example near the valley and also alongside the river. Concerning connectivity between Tung Chung East and Tung Chung West, you can see on the upper right-hand corner that there's going to be a town park. We understand that the town park idea is welcome, and so there will be this town park, and we'll provide various walkways to connect Tung Chung East and Tung Chung West. And there will be medium and high density housing development near the town park. We keep talking about Tung Chung East and Tung Chung West, but in fact we are also proposing roads, cycling tracks, as well as a railway station. In fact, we've proposed 2 new railway stations, one in Tung Chung East, one in Tung Chung West, and then we've proposed also a cycle track network. And in fact, the cycle track will be over 11 kilometers long and will link up the entire new town. I understand that another major concern is the provision of job opportunities. We've looked at the North Commercial District of the airport and also the HKBCF artificial island. The Tung Chung Town Center can provide office space. We've reserved about 500,000 square meters for office use. Then with regard to retail use, both local and regional, we've reserved GFA, and then there will be about 1,000 hotel rooms. So for retail, there will be a total of about 300,000 square meters of GFA, and we believe that about 40,000 new jobs can be created. So we hope that more diversified job opportunities can be provided for the residents of Tung Chung. So you can see the land use distribution proposed. About 30% ecology and the environment, and then there will be, of course, other uses. In fact, we have carried out detailed technical assessments, ventilation, the environment and the ecology, drainage, sewage, water supply, marine geology and so on and so forth, and we haven't identified any problems that cannot be overcome. PE3 started in the middle of August, and about 2 months have lapsed. We've consulted district councils and stakeholders. We've also met the residents at the housing estates, and there will no longer be the 14-hectare reclamation in Tung Chung West. In fact, that's that's a mainstream view. And for Tung Chung West, because of the scrapping of the reclamation proposal, there should be promenades, and also there should be better connectivity between the east and the west. And then we have also received views concerning proposals for low-density development. Another concern expressed is the capacity of the Tung Chung line, whether it can cope with an extra 140,000 people moving into Tung Chung. And many also want improved connections between the Tai Ho to NLH and the future railway station. And some are concerned about noise impact, and also impact on air quality and impact on the traffic caused by an extra 140,000 people moving into the new town. Thank you. Thank you very much for the detailed presentation. Members can now ask questions. I'll read out the 10 names on the list: Chen Yun-han, Alice Smith, Gary Fan, Albert Chen, Lang Chi-cha, Mrs. Regina Ip, Yu Si-wing, Chen Kam-lam, Lo Wai-kwok, Chen Hang-pan. Anyone else? If there is no objection from members, then Ms. Chen Yun-han, and then Mrs. Regina Ip. No, Chairman. In fact, I don't have to leave early, but in fact I raised my hand at a very early stage. Maybe the clerk didn't see my hand. And my name shouldn't have appeared towards the end of the list, right? Wu Chi-wai as well. We may not have a second round. Chen Yun-han, 4 minutes, including replies. No, but I think we have to have we need to follow up. We may need to follow up further. But this is only a public engagement exercise. In fact, we have to finish this item by 4:50. Ms. Chen Yun-han, I support your ruling, Chairman. As I understand that members do have a lot of comments, but then we have to manage our time effectively, and we can't spend unlimited time on one project. Now, I want to say that you've agreed not to carry out the reclamation project in Tung Chung West because of concerns about the ecology. I welcome your decision. I think you have. It's good that you've accepted our views, and you've also reduced the population in this area from about 40,000 to about 20,000. Yes, I also support this idea. I think we shouldn't just attach importance to housing development. We have to consider other factors, including environmental factors. I went to Lemon Island with you, Chairman. I think you know what I'm trying to suggest. Now, Tung Chung is a very scenic area. Many people say that it's the back garden of Hong Kong. I welcome greening, and of course I welcome other proposals for development. I also, yes, the administration has told us that more job opportunities will be created. I hope we will not repeat the unsuccessful examples we had in Tin Shui Wai, for example. I want to say that you've decided not to reclaim 14 hectares of land in Tung Chung West. You've decided to reduce the extra population from 40,000 to 20,000. And I hope that you can tell us what exactly you propose to do in Tung Chung West. We have very beautiful hiking trails and also a very beautiful Tung Chung River, and we also have the mangroves. I went to Fukuoka a while ago, and you know, in Japan they know how to develop scenic attractions. Yes, we can go hiking, we can do other things. I think you can talk to people experienced in this field, including professors in the mainland. In other words, I hope that you can you can develop a very good recreation area for Hong Kong people. You know, I go to Tung Chung quite often. I think it's good if families can go there to look at the mangroves. I think there can be different types of development in this area. Many people have said that Hong Kong people are not good at developing or making good use of the countryside. I hope that the government will not waste this very precious opportunity to develop Tung Chung West into a recreation area. Ms. Alice Mack, so the administration has agreed that there will not be reclamation in Tung Chung West. But then concerning the commercial area proposed, is it that it's going to be primarily retail in nature? For the artificial island, there will be retail facilities, and then at on the Siu Ho Wan reclamation, there will also be retail facilities, and then we also have retail facilities in the North Commercial District of the airport. So is it that we're going to have retail facilities everywhere? The administration has told us that tens of thousands of new jobs will be created. Are you sure, or how can you be sure that companies, logistics companies, will want to operate there? I want to say that we're going to. There will be a bridge, and then there will be a link. But I don't. Will they be toll charging? But I think I can see the toll booths already. If the transport costs are so high, how can you be sure that companies will want to operate there? So please make roads leading to Tung Chung and Lantau toll-free. If the transport costs are too high, people will not want to do business on Lantau and in Tung Chung. You've proposed the Tung Chung West railway station. But when will that station be commissioned? What if people move in and have to wait for the station to be commissioned? And then what was going to happen to Ma Wan Chong village without the reclamation project? Will there be revitalization work?
According to the presentation, there will be a cycling track along the waterfront to connect Tung Chung East and Tung Chung West. And Ma Wan Chong village is a part of Tung Chung West. So how can you revitalize the village so that there will be local commercial development with local characteristics? I'll tackle the question on the MTR stations, and then Mr. Chung can supplement on the commercial activities. The Tung Chung line is already operating now, so it's relatively easy to add new stations. So we will work together with the colleagues from THB to see how and when these 2 stations can be built and commissioned. Mr. Chung, please, over to you on the job opportunities. We would be putting too much focus on retail in our Stage 2P exercise. We presented the idea of a regional commercial development. We've also looked at developments around the airport. In the north commercial district, retail facilities are planned. HKBC Artificial Island. Commercial facilities will also be explored, and to avoid overlapping with these 2 districts. So in the Stage 3EP exercise, we put focus on office development. So around 500,000 square meters will be used for offices in our latest RODP. Chairman, I have questions on traffic, ecology, and air quality. 4 minutes is not enough. First question on the transport, the Tung Chung East MTR station. If we just rely on the Tung Chung East station, it will get too busy. The patronage now at Tung Chung Line at the busy hours only 85% or below, and the government has been adopting a standard of 1 square meter housing taking in 4 people, and in Tsuen Wan Island Line and other busy lines, people have to wait for the second train before they can board. In Tung Chung, the best scenario is to increase the frequency to a 4-minute headway interval. So, administration, can you assure us that the frequencies of trains on Tung Chung Line can be enhanced, and that you would also buy new cars to maintain service at a high quality? Second question, ecology. 120 hectares of reclaimed land in Tung Chung East, and that's near Siu Ho Wan, and also that's near the HKBCP Artificial Island. That will have an impact on the ecology there. And Tai Ho Village, people have cut down the mangroves, doing damage to the ecology. Now, for the marina to be built, have you made an assessment on how Chinese white dolphins will be affected? And also, when the Brothers Island Marine Park is being built, what will the impact on that park? Now, the Hong Kong Zhuhai-Macau Bridge will be commissioned. Can the government undertake that the emission from vehicles will be controlled at a level acceptable to people to safeguard people's health? Green groups have conducted studies saying that Tung Chung suffers from the worst air pollution problem in Hong Kong. Mr. Chan, members are concerned about the carrying capacity of railways. We have talked with the MTRCL on the patronage. they've given us information, and it shows that during the morning peak hours from Tongchong, passengers from Tongchong to the urban areas, the patronage is 5,000. The design capacity of the Tongchong line is, however, 40,000 odd. Based on our development plans, the number of passengers or the patronage will only take up 60% of the full capacity. That's what MTRC told us. In Tongchong, we will be providing many jobs under our plan. So we hope that local jobs can be offered. People can work within Tongchong. We don't want to add extra burden to the Tongchong line. We hope that people can live in Tongchong and work in Tongchong. So time's up. Next one, Mr. Albert Chan. Several questions from me. In Tongchong East, well, the government said that they will preserve the existing shoreline. I welcome that. When it comes to the planning, I don't get it. For Tongchong East, why don't you build buildings of higher density? You plan to provide housing. So why don't you build high-density buildings in Tongchong West? Tongchong East, I have two questions. Mr. Gary Fan said, highlighted the problem of noise pollution, aviation noise pollution, and also air pollution. And because air flow is blocked in Tongchong East, and also the area is near to the southern apron of the airport, so it's quite near to the landing, the site where the site where the planes will take off and land. So by the standard of 25 NEF, what will it cover? Will it cover Tongchong East as well? And actually part of Tongchong is covered under 25 NEF, and development has been frozen. For example, Charlotte Village can't be developed because it falls within the area covered by 25 NEF. But then you are proposing developing housing in areas covered by 25 NEF within Tongchong East. So can you give us a paper to explain clearly? Second question, air pollution. Will Tongchong become a gas chamber in Hong Kong? Because air pollution problem is going to worsen here. Have you conducted an assessment on the air quality? And if people move in, then they are just committing suicide, so to speak. Mr. Chung will talk about the development density. I would like to make a clarification. Do you mean that you want to raise the development density at Tongchong West? Yes, yes. Okay. Mr. Chung can talk about that. And also environment impact assessment. We would be taking forward the matter in accordance with the relevant requirements. Tongchong West. In the red areas, that will be close to the area 39 where public housing will be built. So the plot ratio there is already 6. Under the government's new policies, we would be having a plot ratio based on the prescribed ratio plus 20%. Now towards the southern end, there is also another red area that will be for subsidized housing as well. and that is further away from the Tung Chung West MTRC, then the plot ratio is already 5. So it's a relatively high ratio. And also private housing plot near the town park here. So there we don't propose high density development. So if needed, they can give us a paper afterwards. I'm concerned about the air pollution. So later on we see if they can give us more information later on. Mr. Leung Chi-Chang. Thank you, Chairman. The Stage 3P exercise is a follow-up on the views collected from Stage 2PE. I appreciate the Development Bureau taking heed of residents' views. On the village development in Tung Chung West, I've written to the Development Bureau on this point, and you are not going to preserve rural setting here. So that's good. Well, I am also like to know whether you would develop more homestay lodges in these rural areas. Now, you said that 40,000 new jobs will be created in Tung Chung East and Tung Chung West. Based on your way of calculation, the figure can be achieved. But then the job types are quite monotonous, I would say. It's just commercial and retail facilities. So 30% of the people live there will get employed locally. But then would people, the residents there, like to join these sectors? That's a question. So are all the residents willing to work in these sectors? That may not be the case. And also, traveling expenses is another problem. It's very expensive. Can you provide more jobs in different sectors? Can you give us more statistics? Now, Tung Chung East, I want to ask a question on the transport. And the North Lantau Highway, there is an interchange here, and that can connect the different parts in the area. I'm particularly concerned about Tai Ho 1. There will be a population there around 500 to 1,000 people, a relatively small population. But then they do have a problem getting to Tung Chung East. They have to go via the old Tung Chung town before they can get to Tung Chung East. Can you make it possible for people to walk there or to cycle there? Well, underneath the North Lantau Highway, there is a tunnel. Can you make that accessible to people in Tai Ho 1 so that they can go to Tung Chung East via that tunnel? And then that will provide a connection between the town and the rural areas. So can you do something more on that front? And also connectivity between the east and the west. You said that there will be a cycling track to be built. In the middle, there is this deep yellow part, which is a V-type development. So there will be this missing part, and you would just have to count on the existing town center to be the connecting point. So can you have a promenade to connect the two parts? Perhaps Mr. Chung can explain further. And Mr. Chung can also talk about the connection between the surrounding areas. In Stage 3P exercise, we have said that the people told us very clearly that they want connection between the east and the west. There will be a cycling track. We will not have the 14-hectare reclamation, but along the promenade, we are thinking of having a pedestrian walkway connecting the two parts. And for Tai Ho 1, we might take that, we would conduct a study on that, and perhaps some of the government departments will also conduct studies.
Mrs. Regina Ip, Ms. Chan, Ms. Mack, and Mr. Leung have pointed out that the job opportunities we provided lack diversity. You know, those who are occupying the road outside, the young people, they are concerned about lack of prospects, lack of opportunities. So why is it that the administration hasn't learned from experience? You only know how to provide jobs for in the hotel industry, in the retail industry. What about the new economy, so to speak? You're proposing a marina. Will there be land reserved for the maintenance and repair of yachts? And there will be the third runway. Have you reserved land for aircraft maintenance? And then for this the airport passenger terminal 2, few passengers use this terminal. So are you sure that the North Commercial District of the airport will be viable? So you haven't done enough planning concerning the types of industries to be developed. Some young people want to be involved in scientific research, for example, and then it is said that land has been reserved for tertiary education. What subjects, what disciplines? We don't have too much land left for development. We have to make the best use of the land here. Yes, we we look at the development of Lantau in a holistic manner. We have a Lantau Development Advisory Committee. So North Lantau will be used, will mainly be developed for commercial and residential use, and then in South Lantau, it's going to remain a rural in character. In our planning, we have also included proposals for the development of the local community economy. Yes, Chairman. Yes, we'll no longer carry out reclamation in Tung Chung West. But we will try to revitalize Ma Hang Chong. And there are local community economic activities there. But allow me to interrupt. There is no scalability for local community economy. The scale is too small. I think you haven't answered my question. You only know how to provide opportunities in the retail sector, in the hotel industry. The young people outside are complaining about lack of promotion prospects. So how come our vision for future economic development is so narrow? Will engineering jobs be available for our young people? Is it that you expect all young people to join the services industries? Mr. Low Wai Kwok is here. I believe he wants more engineering vacancies. Now, there will be total gross floor area of over 500,000 square meters for office use, for also scientific research and so on and so forth. Yu Si Wing. The population on Lantau Island at the moment is about 80,000. Then there aren't enough jobs for the people. What I want to say is, in fact, there are about 5,000 vacancies near the airport waiting to be filled. There will be an extra 40,000 people moving into Tung Chung New Chang. or rather, there will be an extra 140,000 people moving into Tung Chung New Town, and it is said that 40,000 new jobs can be created. And then there will be the third runway, and lots of new facilities will be commissioned. And what if there aren't enough people to fill the vacancies? The people living outside Tung Chung won't want to work in Tung Chung because of the long traveling time and the high transport costs. So I think some land in Tung Chung should be used for the development of quarters by companies operating in Tung Chung. I understand that there will be subsidized housing as well as private housing, and there will also be quarters, police quarters. I want to say that at the moment, Yat Chong Estate is an extremely sad estate or town. People would rather live on CSSA than to work, and there are vacancies waiting to be filled. And when we talk about developing the tourism industry, we shouldn't only have our eyes set on hotels, restaurants, and retail outlets. We have our airliners being present at the airport, and we also need maintenance people. Or can we set up a tourism institute to try to nurture more talents for the tourism industry? Thank you, Chairman. In fact, similar views have been expressed in the Lantau Development Advisory Committee concerning the mismatch between people and jobs. And I think Mr. Chong can tell members more about the land reserved for tertiary education. Yes, we have had some discussions with the Education Bureau. We've set aside land for tertiary education. We've heard members' views on the proposed development of the site, the scope of development, and so on and so forth, and we'll try to take on board these views. Any follow-up questions? Now, I am not asking for an immediate reply, but at least I hope that you'll consider this. In other words, some land should be allocated to companies operating in Tung Chung or on Lantau for the provision of office space and quarters. In fact, I understand that some airliners have moved their headquarters to Lantau. Yes, we will consider this suggestion. Thank you. Mr. Chan Kam Lam. Chairman, thank you. I support the idea of providing housing and carrying out economic development in West Tung Chung and East Tung Chung. I understand that 2 more railway stations have been proposed. In fact, minibuses and taxis can play important roles in Tung Chung. In Tung Chung, there are about 50-odd blue taxis only. And you have to wait for a long time to get a taxi, even if you try to make a telephone appointment. So I think you should talk to the Transport and Housing Bureau, asking it to relax the Lantau taxi policy so that there can be more taxis to serve the island. And then for minibuses, after you've alighted the train, you have to use feeder service, for example, bus feeder service. We only have about 4,000 minibuses operating in the territory. This number hasn't changed for many years. And we're going to have new developments. So how can we provide efficient feeder service to the residents of Tung Chung? Of course, we hope that such feeder services can be green public transport modes. I think it's important that adequate transport facilities and services be provided to the residents. In Kwun Tong, when people started to move into new housing developments, they felt that there weren't enough public transport services. So we have to take into account the provision of PTIs, bus termini, and so on and so forth. So you have to plan well ahead. Secretary, thank you. The Lantau Development Advisory Committee has already noted comments and concerns about public transport services. They also feel that planning should start at an early stage, well before people start moving in. And then in fact there is a working group on traffic and transport, and working group members will be having detailed discussions with the Transport and Housing Bureau on public transport arrangements. And of course we will bring Mr. Chen Kam Lam's comments to the working group and to the advisory committee. Still a white clock. When new transport hubs are developed, then they offer good opportunities for housing and commercial developments nearby. Now look at the Kansai International Airport in Osaka. In fact, I visited that area when the airport was commissioned, and there were a lot of economic activities growing up near the airport. And in Shanghai, we during our visit saw the development around Hongqiao Airport. Ours is a leading airport in the world. We should make use of this opportunity to resolve our housing problems and other problems. So I support the planning for Tung Chung East and Tung Chung West. Near the hills, are there green areas with lower ecological value that can be developed? Reclamation takes time, and EIAs have to be carried out. I'm not saying that EIAs are not necessary if we develop land near the hills. Now, Mr. Ma, I understand that you are a very experienced engineer and you are extremely experienced in development and transport planning. Of course, you are a principal official, but then at the same time, you are an engineer. And I'm sure you know that we should try to make use of the land near the hills. And I agree with some of the members that the job opportunities provided are not diversified enough. Look at Shenzhen, which is very near Hong Kong. Now concerning patent registration in Shenzhen, the number makes up half of the total number in the country.
Shenzhen used to be a very deserted area with a low population, but after the opening up policy, it has developed vibrantly, exponentially, and the many good economic activities are taking place there. I think we are lagging behind Shenzhen. Thank you, Mr. Low, for your question. Now let's focus on the development of Tongchong. As to areas in the southern part of Lantau and other areas on Lantau, well, their possibilities, development possibilities are being looked at. Some of them come with, say, topographical constraints. In 2008-09, when we were having a downpour, the landslide problem was quite serious in Lantau. So many areas have been have a lot of development constraints. Mr. Chen Hanpan. I think the government has revised this plan for Stage 3 PE, and we said that there shouldn't be any reclamation in Ma Wan Chong village, and the government has acceded to our demand. For the Tongchong River Valley, a buffer zone has been earmarked so that the ecology will not be disturbed. I think this is good, a good decision on the part of the government. If we don't do anything to the area and then the public cannot enjoy the area, then that will also be a waste of the resources there. So perhaps the government can consider drawing up measures to facilitate the public's enjoyment of the area. I want to raise 2 points here, and I hope that my points can be attached importance by the government. First is on employment. How can we resolve the problem of employment, making jobs available for people locally? Well, one option is to build staff quarters, and also people from outside would not like to move into Tongchong, but then for people working in Tongchong, they would like to live there. So can we consider a scheme whereby people working there can be given extra marks in the allocation of flats, public housing units to them? Second, we hope that land can be reserved for vocational training colleges, and in these colleges, young people can live there and also acquire skills there, and also they can try to find internship opportunities in aviation industries. So please earmark some sites for building vocational training institutions. Third, the price or cost of living is the highest in Tongchong, but then those who live there are not necessarily the richest people. So can you consider building, say, some municipal buildings where people can shop for cheaper goods? So can Mr. Marth consider that? Another worry is that many people will live there. Can our railway network cope with the extra demand? The Tongchong line and the airport line share the same track now, but the frequency will be limited by the bridge. Now, if we have an increase in population there, and then the train frequencies can't be increased by too much. So that's a problem. While people who live there would naturally hope to work there, but that may not be achieved. Also, we hope that there will be a cycling track connecting the various parts of Tung Chung. Now, under the proposal, Tung Chung is divided up into 3 parts. Minibuses can be taking people across these different areas. Can cycling track be considered as well? This Sit Ho. It's good to build housing, and on a new piece of land, we will be able to take in a population of 140,000 people. But then you are saying that you will be providing 40 jobs, i.e. 1/3 of the people living there will be provided with jobs in Tung Chung. I agree with the member saying that this is an unrealistic goal. And people who buy private flats in Tung Chung may buy the flats because of the cheaper prices, but then they may not necessarily work there. And also, the airport provides a lot of job opportunities, and not every one of their workers lives in Tung Chung. So you are talking about 40,000 jobs, new jobs there, and you will say that the people will work there, and you don't need extra transport facilities. That this is not true, and people will. Well, employment in a way can't be planned. We are not having the planned economy as what the mainland had 40 years ago. This is not going to happen in Hong Kong. The jobs are in the retail, hotel, and catering industries. And then we will ask a question, where do the customers come from? A population of 140,000 people, can they support these facilities? Or are you counting on the expansion of the airport and the building of a new shopping center, and then you are relying on the mainland travelers who will consume here locally? Now, a lot of people have problems with mainland Hong Kong integration. So you must come up with a blueprint which is acceptable to all. Now, we've been discussing about building shopping centers at the border for mainlanders' consumption. But all along, the government hasn't come up with a blueprint for us. Don't give us rough figures like 140,000 people living there, 40,000 jobs, and that's not good enough. Well, several years ago, the Star Ferry pier was demolished, and at the same time, the government tried to muddle through the proposal, and that's not going to be acceptable to us today. Now, I want to talk about the East-West connection. Many colleagues have also raised the same point, and I want to raise this point. The aviation staff associations told us that those who live outside of Tung Chung, they couldn't get a taxi into the Cathay Pacific City because this is a taxi restricted zone. Now, for minor matters like those, you couldn't even able to resolve them. So how can we have faith in you that you can put up the best arrangements to satisfy needs of all sides? Now, we are talking about a vast amount of land that can be developed. We want to redevelop the manufacturing industry. Not every young person would like to join the service industry. The Polytechnic University has been proposing a production line for electric vehicles. And the government didn't give them land at that time, and then they ultimately chose to do it in Shenzhen, and we've lost this opportunity. So when we talk about providing jobs in Tongchong, can we consider providing job opportunities in the manufacturing industry, in particular heavy industry? So we've gone over time for the discussion of this item. This is a stage 3P exercise. We are here to, the government is here to listen to our views. And the members raised that they would like to have more time to express their views. Perhaps I can later on consult the relevant members and to see if we can arrange for another meeting to discuss the same subject or matter. So much for the discussion on this item today. Then we will now proceed to item 8, supply of Dongjiang water. Please invite the administration team in. Chairman, if they can't give us the answers to the questions raised just now, perhaps they can give us a paper setting out the answers later on. Yes, I believe that the government will follow up. Yes, no problem, Chairman. First of all, I would like to welcome representatives from the administration who attend the meeting. The name list has been tabled. I'm not going to introduce them one by one. Perhaps the government representative can brief us on the item. Thank you, Chairman. The current agreement with the Guangdong authorities is due to expire at the end of 2014, and the administration has further discussed with the Guangdong authorities for the new arrangement from 2015 to 2017. And that covers the quality, the price, and the ultimate annual DJ supply. The new agreement will also be based on the package deal lump sum approach. And by using this approach, we can ensure the reliability of the water supply, and also we can have flexibility. The new agreement will take effect in January 2015. The price for the cost for 2015 will be higher than what is unexpected, i.e. the provision for the 2015 will not be able to pay for the updated amount. So we will be applying from the FC for a supplementary provision of $47.9 million to meet the additional water purchase cost. So our paper sets out the background for the new agreement, and we would like to hear from members on your views towards this new agreement. Before I ask the members to speak, I would like to remind us that in accordance with Rule 83A of the Rules of Procedure, if the member has a direct or indirect pecuniary interest on the subject discussed, he should disclose the nature of that interest before he speaks. So I'll hand over the floor to members for questioning. I suggest that each member be given 4 minutes to speak, including the answers and questions. 4 members, or rather 5, have indicated they wish to speak. I'll read out your names. Claudia Mo, Chen Kim-po, Liu Wei-kwok, Leung Chi-chang, Ms. Sit-ho, Gary Chen. 4 minutes, including answers and questions. Ms. Claudia Mo. Thank you, Chairman. Regrettably, the subject of water supply and the policy have become politicized because we have to rely on Dongjiang water. We have no choice. And the Beijing authorities have been suggesting that the umbrella revolution or the movement is aimed at getting Hong Kong independent. How can we become independent? 70% of our water comes from the mainland, Dongjiang. Now, you would be asking for an extra sum, $48 million. And, well, it's not up to us not to approve it, or else we will be having no water to use. Now, my first question, if the proposal doesn't get approved, what will happen? Second, concerning the water supply system in Hong Kong, we've been discussing about the desalination technology, and the government said that we will be paying a price 3 times that of Singapore. Hong Kong is surrounded by the sea, and in this day and age, 2014, we've already gone to Mars. How come that we can't bring the costs of desalination technology down?
I understand that you are preparing for the setting up of a desalination plant, but it seems that you're not pressing ahead full steam with the project. Why is it that our costs will be 3 times the cost in Singapore? Now, the detailed design is going on. I think the director, Mr. Lam, can give members more information. Thank you, Chairman. I thank the member for her questions. We only have 100 to 300 million cubic meters of local yield. In 1963, we only had only tens of millions of cubic meters. So we need 930 million cubic meters, and we can't solely rely on local yield. Concerning desalination, the study will be completed next year, and we will come to LegCo to apply for funding for the design work. According to our timetable, phase 1 will be ready in 2020. Overseas experience tells us that for desalination, the cost should be $12 to $13 per cubic meter. We can't primarily rely on seawater desalination because $12 to $13. In fact, this hasn't included the land cost. Because of time constraint, I don't want to have replies that I have heard before. So concerning the $48 million of supplementary provision, is it that we have no choice but to pay this amount? Is it that they are forcing us to pay this amount? In 1989, we agreed with the Guangdong authorities on the rate adjustment formula. We take into account inflation and other factors. For inflation, the average has been 4%. So if we pay in renminbi, the inflation is 4%. Mr. Chen Kin Po. Yes, thank you, Chairman. Concerning water quality, it is said in the paper that the quality of the Dongjiang River meets prescribed standards, but then many people are worried. Last year, it was reported in the media that the heavy metal content in Dongjiang River was very higher than acceptable WHO standards. So how can you allay the worries of Hong Kong people? Have you reflected to the Guangdong authorities Hong Kong people's concern about the quality of Dongjiang River supply to Hong Kong? And then secondly, the FS has said that water tariff rates will be reviewed, and I want to know whether this amount in this paper is over and above that adjustment, and how can you make sure that the increase in water tariff rates will not be excessive? Mr. Lam. Yes, thank you. About 2 weeks ago, Chairman, we had a meeting with the advisory committee on water supply. In fact, we went to we paid a site visit to look at the Dongjiang. In fact, they've just completed a monitoring center in the Dongjiang catchment area, and the monitoring stations have been set up, and all the data are monitored by a major data center. So monitoring has been stepped up by the Guangdong authorities. And concerning water quality parameters, every year the Guangdong Water Supplies Office provides us with data. Now, when the water arrives at the Lowu pumping station, we have online monitoring to make sure that the standards meet the standards, higher standards for potable water in the mainland. We are concerned about dissolved oxygen, E. coli, and other components. You can see on our website that we can meet the standards. And on the last occasion that we paid a site visit to Dongjiang, we went to the rivers where it was reported by Hong Kong media that there was pollution. Now, at a certain river, a dam was constructed to make sure that the water from that river will not flow into Dongjiang. So during our site visits and during our meetings with the Guangdong Water Supplies Office, and judging from the data we have received, the standards, prescribed standards have been met. And then we also look at the concerning our water tariff rate adjustment. We'll come to some conclusions towards the end of the year. We look at our costs, Hong Kong people's affordability, and also comments made by electrical members, and so on and so forth. Mr. Low Wai Kwok. Yes, Chairman. The lump sum approach has been discussed by this panel and has been queried by some members. But then, as we have a pledge concerning stable and reliable water supply, I think the arrangement is sound. In the mainland, they are also suffering from a shortage of water resources. I understand that in some places the supply of water resources is abundant, but then in other places the supply of water resources is very tight. And I think it's important that we have a reliable supply of water, of fresh water for Hong Kong. And I think this mode of cooperation has served us well and has been operating well or working well. I think the arrangement of the lump sum approach is of mutual benefit. I understand that members of the public are concerned about future adjustments to water tariff rates, but then water tariff rates are not solely determined by the cost of Dongjiang water supply. There are other factors coming into play. Now, I want to ask a question. Our financial year is from April to March in the following year. So how come the water supply agreement can't start from the first day of a financial year? Now, because now we are told that from the 1st of January next year onwards, we will have to pay more for Dongjiang water, and as a result, supplementary provision is required. I don't think members do object to the supplementary provision as such, but then I think you need to bear in mind the political atmosphere in this council. Yes, Chairman. In fact, we've also brought this up with the Guangdong authorities. But then, for the past decade or two, we started from the first day of the calendar year and until the last day of the calendar year, and they have already got accustomed to such financial and taxation arrangements. They do not want to change the well-established system because of our unique situation. Is it really necessary to seek supplementary provision every time? Now, assuming that members do not object to approving the supplementary provision, what if we aren't able to approve the money in time because of the backlog of FC items? We'll try our best, Chairman. Our practice is to go to the panel in October and then to the FC in November, and then we can proceed to sign the agreement with the Guangdong authorities. Chairman, you know, last year a total of $900 million was wasted under the lump sum approach. Now, of course, if you ask members of the public, they will tell you that they don't want to waste taxpayers' money. But then, under the packaged deal lump sum approach, it is true that reliable and stable supply of water can be guaranteed, and yet huge sums of money may be wasted. I understand that the Hong Kong government has reached an agreement with the Guangdong authorities on the increases in the coming 3 years, and in each year the increase exceeds 6%. And I believe that it is very likely that water tariff rates to be paid by Hong Kong people will have to go up. And yet Hong Kong people see huge sums of money wasted every year under the lump sum approach. So how can you strike the right balance? Will water tariff go up next year? Director. Yes, thank you, Chairman. I want to take this opportunity to clarify one point. Now, in Hong Kong, we count solely on local yield. There will be a shortfall of about, there will be a very big shortfall. In overseas countries, if the local yield is not enough, then they will have to talk about so-called water rights. There will be a shortfall of 200 million cubic meters if we solely rely on local yield. And so we've impressed upon the Guangdong authorities that we need a reliable supply of fresh water. Concerning the figure of 820 million, that was the figure we adopted in 2009. And of course, at the same time, we're trying to implement demand management. In fact, we are not letting the water go down the drains, so to speak. In fact, we've told the Guangdong authorities that if we have more rainfall, then we'll not need too much supply, that much supply. So, in fact, I want to tell members that concerning the 6% increase. In fact, if you take into inflation, it's 4%, and the 3% is due to the appreciation of the renminbi.
So that's why through the negotiations we have been able to bring down the percentage to 6%. Now, as to the consideration for increasing tariff in Hong Kong, there are a host of factors that we take on board. Dongjiang water supply is only one of it, one factor in the formula. We also consider the people's affordability, electrical government's views, and the economic situation in Hong Kong. And we don't have a fixed or specific proposal on increase of water tariff. If we have a proposal, we will come back to consult you, electrical members. Ms. Sitho. We adopt this lump sum approach that has been going on for a long time. And in the past, we did have situations where we waste water away. And we now have come to this approach where we will get whatever we need. We will just get whatever we need, irrespective of the sum of money we pay. Now, we have 2 points to make. One is don't try to casually increase water tariffs. Second, we must save and conserve water. We must have a campaign to encourage people to conserve water. Even if Dongjiang water can supply 820 million cubic meters, or in the future maybe 1,000 million cubic meters, we should not be wasting water, because there is indeed a demand for water from the mainland, and we should see ourselves as part of the global village, and we should conserve water. Now, because China is overdeveloped, they are having a shortage of water too. So we must explore desalination technology, because their water supply may not be stable. We must press ahead with that. We also have some projects to collect or do rainwater harvesting. In the mid-levels on the Hong Kong Island, we do have a rainwater harvesting field. But then the rainwater system, or the rainwater collected from the system, just gets washed out to the sea ultimately. Now, when we use that system, can we not consider collecting the rainwater in that system? That would be a small reservoir built, and we've spent over $10 billion to build that system for preventing flooding and so on. Can we take an extra step and collect rainwater from that system as well? And please look at the system as an integrated whole. And the EPD maybe are doing something on their own, and the water supplies department should also work together with them, I think. There should be a coordinated approach in dealing with that system. Government officials, please respond on the point about the conservation efforts. Together with, we are having regular meetings with the DSD, and we also talk with the DSDs on how to make better use of grey water or sewage collected. We have considered collecting water going through the water drainage systems in a place. But then it involves a lot of high costs in handling the water collected. First, do we have the land? Second, will it have an impact on the environment? And also, for the water collected at the water mains, some of the water has been contaminated. So if we have to recycle the use of such water, we have to deal with the contamination problem. So the costs involved will be very high. So it may not be cost effective. Mr. Gary Chan. Chairman, when we consider the supplementary provision, we have to take a look at whether the projection in the first place was accurate or not. You said that there are 3 factors: the operating cost, the inflation rate, and also the exchange rate between the renminbi and Hong Kong dollar. So when you first came up with your projection for the estimates, have you talked with the Guangdong authorities on the criteria that they adopted in charging us? Do you know the criteria? And if yes, can you share those with us? Well, only when you know about how they came up with their operating costs would you be able to come up with an accurate estimate of your costs. You can't just look at the exchange rate and the inflation rate. This is my first question. Second, in the North District and also in rural areas in the new territories, we are still using fresh water to flush the toilets. I think this is very ironic on the part. I would like to commend you for your efforts in launching the Let's Save 10 Liters Water campaign. That has proved successful among some residents. But then after all these years in the North District and the rural areas in the new territories, you are still using fresh water to flush the toilet. And this is a waste of our very precious water resources. Can you consider afresh using seawater to flush the toilets in the North Districts? I've raised this question many times at the meetings of the panel, and all along there has not been much progress. So in your water conservation policies, has anything been done on that front? We are embarking on several initiatives in conserving water, using fresh water for toilet flushing. Around 80% of the population use seawater for toilet flushing. We have the plan to increase that percentage to 85% to 90%. And at the end of this year, the seawater for toilet flushing system will be extended to Pok Fu Lam, Yuen Long, and Tin Shui Wai areas. If we are to replace the fresh water with seawater, we have to talk individually to the households. And by 2020, 5% of the population will be covered. Now, as for grey water and reclaimed water in the Shat Wu Hui sewage treatment plants, the capacity will be upgraded to a level 3, and fluoride will be added. So in Shangshui and North District, we will be using reclaimed water to replace the fresh water. In the remaining areas are the in the island and so on, which will still use seawater to flush the toilet. There will be, as the population in the new territories grows, there is further room for using reclaimed water for flushing the toilet. Mrs. Regina Yip. I recall having seen figures that the water usage of Hong Kong person per capita is the highest among the world. And what about the water tariff? Are we ranking the top in terms of the water tariff? And also, is water supply from Dongjiang the cleanest? Mrs. Yip is right. I have attended a Water Federation meeting, and they have members from different parts of the world, including Singapore and so on and so forth. Hong Kong, every person uses on average 130 liters, and in other cities, 100 to 110 liters. So we are around 20% above their usage. So that's why we are having this Let's Save 10 liters water campaign. We want to cut 130 liters to 120 liters. In Taipei and Singapore, and they are embarking on similar campaigns, and they've been able to save some water as a result. Now, if we install flow interceptors, flow controllers together with launching the campaign, then we will be able to save more water. And in the next phase of the campaign, we will have a target of saving 20 liters of water. Now, water tariffs. We are among the cheapest amongst cities on the mainland. We haven't increased our tariffs for over a decade. And as I said, we have concrete proposals on tariff increase. We will come back to you for consultation. With regard to our water conservation campaign, apart from asking members to save water and also replacing fresh water with seawater and flushing toilets, we will also be looking at leaked water mains where there is leakage. 25% of the water mains is leaked, and we hope to reduce it to 1%. And we will also be installing monitoring devices on our 7,800 kilometers long of water mains, and that will enable us to identify where there is leakage in the water mains, and then we can repair and maintain the leaked parts as soon as we can. And this is already happening in advanced countries, and with the smart monitoring system, we hope to mitigate the problem. Are we having the cleanest water among various cities in the world? And well, the Dongjiang River meets with the highest standards in environmental quality standards for surface water. You discussed about the average water usage rate. Yes, does it include cover tourists? No, we are just talking about the households. Mr. Raymond Chan, I would originally plan to commend the WSD for its Let's Save 10 Liters Water campaign. It's achieved great success in the local communities. But then we are spending the same amount year after year in buying water from Dongjiang. Then, well, to members of the public who participate in the campaign, then they would think that this is just a game because it doesn't help in reducing the amount of water that we need to buy. So can you consider, say, cutting the quantity of water to be purchased by 5%, so it will give people the impression that that we are achieving something through that campaign. So is the government contradicting itself? On the point of desalination plant, in the past, in the policy address, it is mentioned that there will be a plant to be built in Cheung Kwan O. It will apply less than 10% of the water used in Hong Kong, though. So would you be expanding the project? Well, in 2004, 10 years ago, and we already had this target of 820 million cubic meters. And in this period, we have seen a population increase. Now, if we go by the population growth, we would already have to be increasing the quantity of water to be bought by 100 million cubic meters. It's because that we have been doing well in our water conservation and we have been monitoring water leakage. So even if there is an increase in population and increase in economic activities, we are not buying more water as a result. We don't come up with the figures casually. We have a calculation model. If there is extreme drought condition with a return period of 1 in 100 years, can we still maintain the water supply around the clock with an amount of 820 million cubic meters?
So, concerning why we can't lower the level. Now in the 1960s, we had years when it only had an annual local yield of about 60 to 70 million. And as you know, droughts do occur, and if droughts occur for 2 years in a row, and if we have reduced the supply of Dongjiang River, then the public will be affected. The desalination study has basically been completed. Now, if we need to set up a desalination plant in Chang Kwan O, we need to carry out an EIA first. We have to decide where we'll take water and where the unused seawater will be discharged. So the study will be completed next year, and then we'll come to LegCo for funding approval to do the design. And we hope that phase 1 can be completed in Chang Kwan O by 2020. Mr. Chen Kam Lam. Chairman, Hong Kong people are used to using as much water as they like, and so our Save Water Resources campaign or campaigns have not been very effective. I think WSD needs to really accurately assess the amount of water resources saved every year, and we also have to step up our campaigns. Some members are of the view that more money needs to be spent by Hong Kong, or more money needs to be paid by Hong Kong under the lump sum approach. But then, if we abandon this approach and we have to compete with other cities in the region, we may not be able to guarantee a reliable and steady supply. Now, we have the benefit of water supply from Dongjiang River, and we should not use the word regrettable in describing this arrangement. Now, our motherland has given us a lot of support. We should count ourselves lucky because we have been receiving very strong support from our motherland with regard to supply of food and drinks. On one occasion, I went to Singapore, and the people there said that Hong Kong was lucky because there was a supply of water from Dongjiang. But then in Singapore, they have to rely on water supply from Malaysia, which is very expensive. And so in Singapore, they heavily rely on seawater desalination. And we understand that the cost is very high. And so I think when Hong Kong people use water, when they drink water, they should remember the source of the water. And so I think it's really futile for Hong Kong people to want to become independent. We can't stand on our own feet. We can't rely on ourselves concerning water supply. So I don't think any member should contemplate voting down the supplementary provision of $47.9 million in the Finance Committee. Water is needed for our daily lives. We should be pragmatic. When the paper comes to the Finance Committee, members should support the application. Members should not filibuster, making it impossible for the Hong Kong government to sign a new agreement with the Guangdong authorities in time. And we do not want to have to owe the Guangdong authorities money. Please do not politicize the matter. Chairman, next year, or rather, we've distributed 100,000 controllers to the households. And so we should be able to know next year how much water has been saved by the use of flow controllers. So we have the Let's Save 10-liter water campaign, and I hope that in future we can have a Let's Save 20-liter water campaign. Mr. Yu Si Wing, now concerning the adjustment, the rates, those were due to inflation and also appreciation of the renminbi, 4.04% and 3.18% respectively. And these add up to a total of 7.22%. Can you try to bring down the increase in the rates in the next 3 years? Now concerning the cost, catchment water $4, Dongjiang River $8, and then desalination $12. So we can see that the cost of desalination is the highest, and we also have to tackle the pollution problems. We have to find land, and the cost will keep escalating. Seawater desalination appears attractive, since we can be self-sufficient. But then initially, the output of the plant will only account for 5% of our total freshwater consumption, and this will only rise to 10% later. So is it really worth the while pursuing desalination? Because I'm worried that desalination may not be cost effective. Yes, some members are saying that we need to be self-sufficient, we need to stand on our own feet, we should rely on ourselves. But is this option of seawater desalination really realistic and cost effective? So I think there should be consultation, extensive consultation beforehand. Then it is said that desalination will become an important source or an important water source for Hong Kong. That's in para 26. Is it? Can you elaborate on this? What exactly do you mean, Director? Now, if we look at the price indexes in the two places, 4%, and then appreciation of the renminbi, 3%. Now, in the past 3 years, didn't draw all the or we didn't draw the full amount, and so you may think that Guangdong might have saved some money concerning electricity costs. But in the past 3 years, Guangdong invested in the infrastructure, and so all the factors were taken into account, and as a result, the rate of increase or the increase was brought down to about 6%. Desalination, of course, can serve as an important water source, and I think we need to take into account climate change as well. Now, do you know water that will not be affected by climate change, seawater, as well as rainwater harvesting? So, or rather, water reclamation. Now, Hong Kong as well as cities near the Dongjiang will be affected by similar climate change, and so we are of the view that 5% represents the right balance. And then as to whether this percentage will go up, well, it depends on where the population increase will occur. Now, say for example, if a desalination plant is established near the a place where there will be extra population, then the distance involved in water supply can be shortened. And then what about bursting of water pipes? Yes, Chairman, thank you. Now, in fact, the amount of water leaked during the bursting of pipes, in fact, is not very big. 25% in a year 2000, now 16%, and it's going to be 10% next year. Now, because we're able to save about 1% of our water every year, and so despite population growth, we need not increase the maximum amount to be supplied from Dongjiang. Thank you. I understand that Malaysia sells water to Singapore, and the rate or the price is lower than the price we pay in Hong Kong. Is my understanding correct? I think that there are two agreements between Malaysia and Singapore, one in 1962 and 1990, and they will expire in 2061. I understand that under the agreements, they do not only take into account the cost of the water. Under the 1962 agreement, Singapore had to pay the land cost. And for water treated in Singapore, it had to be sold at a low price to Malaysia. And then under the 1990 agreement, dams had to be constructed in Malaysia, but then the land cost and all the other costs had to be paid by Singapore. But I think you can compare the total costs for Hong Kong and for Singapore. In theory, we can do the calculation. If we have all the data, for example, we don't know what the land cost in Malaysia is, and also Malaysia can also require Singapore to sell water to it. So are you saying that we can't make a comparison? No, because we need to know how much water the Malaysian government needs from Singapore. But my understanding is that the price paid by Singapore is lower than the price paid by Hong Kong. My understanding is that the price paid by Singapore is much, much lower. The selling of potable water is a commercial behavior. So we're not talking about are being taken good care of. And I want to ask you a question, Director. Is it possible to build more reservoirs in Hong Kong? Yes, Chairman. Let me make 2 points. The agreement between Singapore and Malaysia will expire in 2061, and Singapore has decided not to purchase water from Malaysia beyond that year. At the moment, Singapore is purchasing 40% of its water supply from Malaysia. So it will be from 40% to 0% between now and 2061.
用污水嘅啫。
Denmark is also using sewage water and turn it into potable water. It's quite expensive. Mr. Michael Tan. There are a number of business people joining the LegCo, and we hope that they can help make better calculations on sums, and then we would not be wasting our money. I support bringing in water from Dongjiang, and we are having this lump sum approach, which can guarantee a stability, reliability. In the past decade, how many years have you used up all the 820 million cubic meters? 04, 808, and 11, 818 million cubic meters. So for 8 years, we have paid for 820 million cubic meters, but have not used up all the total amount. So how much have you actually wasted? Well, as I said, starting from several years ago, we didn't have to waste away water. We just get whatever we need. What about paying for unused water? 100 million cubic meters on average is not needed. Well, we have considered whether we can have a reservoir storing up all these unused water, but then we have looked at the cost, including the land cost and so on. Well, for the past decade, you have how many cubic meters of water have you paid for but not used? You have to use a total amount. You can't do it on an average. Well, you can't use an average figure. So 10 years, 1 billion cubic meters. Well, $5 per cubic meters. So in the past decade, we have been paying $5 billion for unused water. So is there absolutely no other way to reduce that wastage of money? Perhaps you can build a seawater desalination plant. You can buy 700 million cubic meters instead of 800 million cubic meters. Can that be done? And then you can produce water from your desalination plant. Director, say if we just buy 720 million cubic meters and then you produce the other 100 million cubic meters through a desalination plant, but then the operating cost is for the desalination is $12 per cubic meters, and $5 will be the initial capital cost. So the extra $5 you pay for the Dongjiang River will actually be equivalent to the startup cost of the desalination plant. Now, say one day, if there is a price hike of Dongjiang water, then to the extent that it is higher than the fixed cost or the capital startup cost of the desalination plant, then the desalination approach can be adopted, right? Well, we have to also look at the increase in the water tariff. Say if it reaches $7, $8, and then you can also lower the startup cost of the desalination plant, you'll be able to narrow down the gap. So we haven't taken into consideration the land cost of the desalination plant. Yes, so much for the discussion of this item. So my question is, will the committee members support the government submitting the proposal for consideration by the FC? Thank you. Supported. Item 9. And that has to do with the joint subcommittee to monitor the implementation of the WKCD project. In the 2012-13 session, we, together with the HAB, agreed to set up this joint subcommittee. The joint subcommittee will continue with its unfinished business. So if members agree, the clerk will issue a circular later to invite, once again, members to join this subcommittee. Now, for incumbent members of the subcommittee, if they don't send in a written notice saying that they would withdraw from the joint subcommittee, they will automatically become members of that joint subcommittee. And the joint subcommittee will, in the first meeting of this session, decide on whether to elect a new chairman and new deputy chairman. Now, if members don't have any views on this, I will proceed it that way. I believe that members will support that approach. AOB? If not AOB, meeting adjourned. Well, on this joint subcommittee to monitor the implementation of the WKCD project, I would like to declare that I am a newly appointed member to the board of the WKCD. All right. Okay. No AOB. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.